าไปในซูมก็หรือยังนี่คืออะไรอันนี้คือต้องรอพี่เขายังไม่รอก่อนเนาะยังไม่ได้รับเข้าสู่โอเค
Let me see. I don't think so. Would it be better if I leave and then come back?
Yes, that would help so much. That would help so much.
Sure. I'll come back. Thank you.
Thank you.
เช็คระบบเสียงนะครับเช็คระบบเสียง
Though economic activities help create wealth to people, nations, and the world, they can overly consume natural resources and heavily pollute the environment. Without proper management, economic activities could lead to other social problems, such as migration to big cities, social inequality, and poverty, attributed to imbalanced wealth and income distribution. Damage to the environment also contributes to climate change and subsequently causes natural disasters due to changes in weather patterns. COVID-19, a new threat that has disrupted the economy around the world. Its spread has left national economies and businesses counting the costs as governments struggle with new lockdown measures to tackle the spread of the virus. To address these global challenges, the concept of bioeconomy, circular economy, and green economy has been introduced as a key to sustainability. Bioeconomy involves the production of renewable biological resources and the conversion of these resources into high-value products, thus leading to a more innovation-based economy and robust and sustainable economic growth. Circular economy is an economic system of closed loop in which waste is eliminated and resources are continually used by employing reuse, sharing, repair, refurbishment, remanufacturing, and recycling, and therefore can help tackle depletion of natural resources. Whereas green economy promotes low carbon emission, aiming at fighting off climate change. The concept of bioeconomy, circular economy, and green economy, which will now be collectively referred to as BCG economy, therefore will enable a better and more sustainable future. The BCG model also conforms with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. The model intends to utilize science, technology, and innovation to drive the national development, focusing on conservation, rehabilitation, utilization, and management, as well as value creation of biological and cultural diversity. Food and agriculture, the value of this sector can be multiplied with product diversification, product differentiation, high value and premium quality products and services, waste reduction, resource and land use efficiency improvement. This strategy can be enabled by R&D and technologies such as customer behavior analytics, optimized waste production, smart farming technologies, traceability, food and product safety, as well as the development of high-value and novel food products, such as food for special groups of people, such as patients and the elderly, and functional ingredients. Medical and wellness. This sector can be enhanced through intensive capacity building in technology and human capital in R&D and production technology for vaccines, biopharmaceuticals, and medical devices, as well as clinical research and product registration of pharmaceuticals and medical devices. These actions will support the healthcare policy of promoting preventive medicine and precision medicine. Platforms to facilitate the utilization of genetic data, as well as clinical research among involved parties, including researchers, industry and regulatory bodies, will also be established. Bioenergy, biomaterial, and biochemical. This sector has high potential growth. The energy sector can benefit from advanced technology in energy produced from renewable resources, such as refuse-derived fuel and biogas, as well as the establishment of community-based power plants with a distributed energy resources system using renewable energy sources, including biomass and biogas, and connected through blockchain-enabled smart microgrids. This vision will require intensive research in energy storage systems. As for the materials and biochemical sector, cutting-edge technologies will be developed and employed to convert biomass and agricultural byproducts to high-value commodities such as bioplastics, fibers, and pharmaceuticals. Tourism and creative economy. Technology and innovation will be applied to create an upgrade infrastructure and a digital platform to improve tourists' convenience and experience and advance the industry to high-quality tourism. Science and technology will be employed to define national guidelines for tourism. For example, carrying capacity, support sustainable tourism standard system, and conserve and rehabilitate the environment. Under the creative economy concept, tourism can be linked to other service industries to target niche markets such as wellness tourism, culinary tourism, ecotourism, cultural tourism, and sports tourism. As countries around the world are embracing BCG concept and move forcefully with various platforms to facilitate and support the implementation in all processes, ranging from research and innovation to technology management and commercialization, and collaboration at local and international levels. It is essential for ASEAN to take a collective action on this issue. An ASEAN Network on Biocircular Green Economy, ASEAN BCG Network, is therefore proposed. ASEAN BCG Network is a coalition of public, private, and non-government organizations in ASEAN with strong interest in BCG, aiming to strengthen ASEAN capacity in research, development, and technology diffusion to enable the adoption of applicable technologies for sustainable development. The network will serve as a gateway to catalyze collaboration with other non-ASEAN organizations in research, technology demonstration, technology localization, and commercialization on BCG. The economic benefit offered by BCG has garnered the attention of industry. Therefore, special emphasis will be given to initiate projects such as technology demonstration, technology localization, and commercialization to facilitate technology diffusion and adoption in the industrial sector. Beneficiaries of ASEAN BCG Network include 1. Policymakers and regulators. The network serves as a platform for policymakers and regulators in ASEAN and non-ASEAN nations to exchange dialogue on BCG policy, examples and case studies, which can guide each country to their own development and achievement. 2. Researchers and innovators. Researchers and innovators in ASEAN will directly benefit from network activities through scientific seminars and workshops. As the network serves as an ASEAN gateway, collaboration with non-ASEAN researchers will be enhanced, and external funding will also be made possible through non-ASEAN partners. 3. Businesses. New type of business arising from BCG, such as clean tech, upcycle, will emerge in ASEAN through activities such as Technology Mart, which helps expose ASEAN entrepreneurs to new business opportunities and potential partnerships with non-ASEAN tech enterprises. The existing manufacturing and service sectors in ASEAN, looking for innovative solutions to circularity and green manufacturing, will benefit from activities such as Technology Mart, as well as technology demonstration, technology localization, and technology transfer initiated by the network. Together with our knowledge and commitment, we can create a better future for our world. ASEAN BCG Network. Though economic activities help create wealth to people, nations, and the world, they can overly consume natural resources and heavily pollute the environment. Without proper management, economic activities could lead to other social problems, such as migration to big cities, social inequality, and poverty, attributed to imbalanced wealth and income distribution. Damage to the environment also contributes to climate change and subsequently causes natural disasters due to changes in weather patterns. COVID-19, a new threat that has disrupted the economy around the world. Its spread has left national economies and businesses counting the costs as governments struggle with new lockdown measures to tackle the spread of the virus. To address these global challenges, the concept of bioeconomy, circular economy, and green economy has been introduced as a key to sustainability. Bioeconomy involves the production of renewable biological resources and the conversion of these resources into high-value products, thus leading to a more innovation-based economy and robust and sustainable economic growth. Circular economy is an economic system of closed loop in which waste is eliminated and resources are continually used by employing reuse, sharing, repair, refurbishment, remanufacturing, and recycling, and therefore can help tackle depletion of natural resources. Whereas green economy promotes low carbon emission, aiming at fighting off climate change. The concept of bioeconomy, circular economy, and green economy, which will now be collectively referred to as BCG economy, therefore will enable a better and more sustainable future. The BCG model also conforms with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. The model intends to utilize science, technology, and innovation to drive the national development, focusing on conservation, rehabilitation, utilization, and management, as well as value creation of biological and cultural diversity. Food and agriculture, the value of this sector can be multiplied with product diversification, product differentiation, high value and premium quality products and services, waste reduction, resource and land use efficiency improvement. This strategy can be enabled by R&D and technologies such as customer behavior analytics, optimized waste production, smart farming technologies, traceability, food and product safety, as well as the development of high-value and novel food products, such as food for special groups of people, such as patients and the elderly, and functional ingredients. Medical and wellness. This sector can be enhanced through intensive capacity building in technology and human capital in R&D and production technology for vaccines, biopharmaceuticals, and medical devices, as well as clinical research and product registration of pharmaceuticals and medical devices. These actions will support the healthcare policy of promoting preventive medicine and precision medicine. Platforms to facilitate the utilization of genetic data, as well as clinical research among involved parties, including researchers, industry and regulatory bodies, will also be established. Bioenergy, biomaterial, and biochemical. This sector has high potential growth. The energy sector can benefit from advanced technology in energy produced from renewable resources, such as refuse-derived fuel and biogas, as well as the establishment of community-based power plants with a distributed energy resources system using renewable energy sources, including biomass and biogas, and connected through blockchain-enabled smart microgrids. This vision will require intensive research in energy storage systems. As for the materials and biochemical sector, cutting-edge technologies will be developed and employed to convert biomass and agricultural byproducts to high-value commodities such as bioplastics, fibers, and pharmaceuticals. Tourism and creative economy. Technology and innovation will be applied to create an upgrade infrastructure and a digital platform to improve tourists' convenience and experience and advance the industry to high-quality tourism. Science and technology will be employed to define national guidelines for tourism. For example, carrying capacity, support sustainable tourism standard system, and conserve and rehabilitate the environment. Under the creative economy concept, tourism can be linked to other service industries to target niche markets such as wellness tourism, culinary tourism, ecotourism, cultural tourism, and sports tourism. As countries around the world are embracing BCG concept and move forcefully with various platforms to facilitate and support the implementation in all processes, ranging from research and innovation to technology management and commercialization, and collaboration at local and international levels. It is essential for ASEAN to take a collective action on this issue. An ASEAN network on biocircular green economy, ASEAN BCG Network, is therefore proposed. ASEAN BCG Network is a coalition of public, private, and non-government organizations in ASEAN with strong interest in BCG, aiming to strengthen ASEAN capacity in research, development, and technology diffusion to enable the adoption of applicable technologies for sustainable development. The network will serve as a gateway to catalyze collaboration with other non-ASEAN organizations in research, technology demonstration, technology localization, and commercialization on BCG. The economic benefit offered by BCG has garnered the attention of industry. Therefore, special emphasis will be given to initiate projects such as technology demonstration, technology localization, and commercialization to facilitate technology diffusion and adoption in the industrial sector. Beneficiaries of ASEAN BCG Network include 1. Policymakers and regulators. The network serves as a platform for policymakers and regulators in ASEAN and non-ASEAN nations to exchange dialogue on BCG policy, examples and case studies, which can guide each country to their own development and achievement. 2. Researchers and innovators. Researchers and innovators in ASEAN will directly benefit from network activities through scientific seminars and workshops. As the network serves as an ASEAN gateway, collaboration with non-ASEAN researchers will be enhanced, and external funding will also be made possible through non-ASEAN partners. 3. Businesses. New type of business arising from BCG, such as clean tech, upcycle, will emerge in ASEAN through activities such as Technology Mart, which helps expose ASEAN entrepreneurs to new business opportunities and potential partnerships with non-ASEAN tech enterprises. The existing manufacturing and service sectors in ASEAN, looking for innovative solutions to circularity and green manufacturing, will benefit from activities such as Technology Mart, as well as technology demonstration, technology localization, and technology transfer initiated by the network. Together with our knowledge and commitment, we can create a better future for our world. ASEAN BCG Network.
Good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to welcome you all today. We appreciate your attention and joining us for the forum on ASEAN moving forward with BCG economy. My name is Lily Urvilaichit, Vice President of National Science Technology Development Agency or NASDA, and also your MC for this session. As bio-circular and green economy, which is considered as a tool to support Sustainable Development Goals or SDG, and it has now become national's agenda for Thailand. And ASEAN is also heading towards achieving sustainable growth for the nation as well. It is our honor for today's session to have distinguished speakers to share their expertise and views related to bio-circular and green economy. But first of all, allow me to introduce you to Dr. Narong Sirirodwarakul, President of NASDA, who will give an opening remarks and also join us as our first speakers. Dr. Narong is an advisor to the subcommittee of the National Research, Science and Innovation of the Senate, corresponding member of the European Association of Research and Technology Organization, ASTIW, Advisory Board member of the Global Young Academy, GYA, and Secretariat of the Bio-Circular Green Economy Committee, or BCG. And may I now invite Dr. Narong Sirirodwarakul to deliver the welcome remarks and give us an overview of the Bio-Circular Green Economy model. Over to you, Dr. Narong.
The representative of ASEAN member countries, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and most privilege to address to all of you today at the ASEAN STI Week. On behalf of the National Science and Technology Development Agency or NASDA, acting as the local host of ASEAN moving forward with BCG economy session, with the guest support of Ministry of Higher Education, Science, Research and Innovation. I am delighted to welcome participants present in the conference hall in Bangkok, as well as audience from around the world, moving through live webcast to this important event. For decades, we have been focusing on developing our economy that brought about wealth to our people and nations. However, we seem to ignore our true treasures such as natural resources, water, air, and forest that have been overused and polluted. The rapid economic growth can also unbalance wealth and income distribution to our society. I believe we all recognize that the strength of ASEAN lies in rich biodiversity and agricultural activities. Therefore, in this session, the concept of bioeconomy, circular economies, and green economies of BCG economy model will be introduced as the key to bring sustainability to our region and restore the balance of wealth and the environment. This forum provides a great opportunity for our ASEAN countries to share our viewpoints and the latest updates on policy and actions related to BCG with our community and the world. I hope that this event serves as a starting point for a regional BCG collaboration to contribute to the sustainability of ASEAN and the world. Thank you. With this opportunity, I would like to start my talk on the development of Thailand through the BCG economy model. BCG economy model aims at applying the concept of bioeconomy, circular economies, and green economy to the national development, using bioeconomy concept to create additional value to natural and biological resources, as well as farm commodities. We are applying circular concept to keep resources in use for as long as possible through reuse and recycling, employing green economies to increase resource use efficiencies while reducing environmental risk. In this slide, I would like to mention some of the main strengths and challenges of Thailand. Our strengths include richness in biological, cultural, and geographical diversity. With the biodiversity, we are ranked on the 15th among 193 countries around the world. Other than that, BCG industry contributes 3.4 trillion Thai baht, or about 1/5 of our GDP, and account for 16.5 million jobs around the country. Among our challenges are environmental degradation, climate change, low economic growth, low technological self-reliance, and low income. BCG model therefore aim at creating self-reliance, building resilience, and expediting recovery from the pandemic. It intends to utilize science, technologies, and innovation to drive the national development, focusing on conservation, utilization, and management, as well as value creation of biological and cultural diversity. In terms of vision, a 5-year BCG strategic plan set a vision for Thailand to attain sustainable economic growth with science, technologies, and innovation. The plan consists of 4 areas. The first one is promote sustainability of natural and biological resources through balancing conservation and utilization. Second, strengthen communities and grassroots economy. The third one, enhance sustainable competitiveness of BCG industry. And of course, the last one is build resilience to global changes. BCG strategic plan has 3 goals with a set of key performance indicators. Goal number 1, to achieve sustainable economic growth and less per capita income. BCG model is expected to raise economic value of the BCG industry, increase high-value products and services, generate more income, and reduce social disparity among the grassroots. Goal number 2, to promote human security in food, health, and energy. BCG model aims to increase proportion of renewable energy consumption to 20% and improve access to medicine and medical supplies even in crisis. Goal number 3, to attain sustainability of resources and the environment. BCG model will reduce natural resources consumption by 2/3, restore natural resources, and promote sustainable tourism. BCG model targets 6 areas, namely biological and cultural diversity, agriculture and food, medical and wellness, energy, material and biochemicals, tourism and creative economy, circular economy. Action plan has been decided for each strategic area. As you can see, there are several plans under each of these strategies. For sustainability of natural and biological resources, implementation plan is in place to strike a balance of conservation and utilization, build capacity in resource management, and establish a resource management system. For the second strategy, we will focus on improving food, health, and energy security, facilitating area-based development, and making knowledge and technology more accessible to the grassroots. For the third one, in order to enhance sustainable competitiveness of Thai industry, action plans include sectoral development and address multiple components to drive business and industry, such as talent and entrepreneurial market, regulatory framework, and infrastructure. And for the last strategy, we will be promoting frontier research, capacity building, and international partnership to build resilience to global change. BCG roadmap consists of 3 phases. Because it is vital to build a solid groundwork, a lot of tasks needs to be achieved in the first 2 years. Tasks ranging from establishing awareness and understanding of BCG economy among all sectors to get their involvement, preparing comprehensive database, issuing some laws and regulations, preparing infrastructure and manpower, developing programs dealing with major issues such as single-use plastics, antibiotics, and chemical use in agriculture, strengthening a dynamic ecosystem. All needs to be done during this phase. The following 3 years are referred as the second phase. These years will be devoted to scale up action and strengthen industry through R&D, entrepreneurship programs, and marketing. The last phase from 2026 to 2027 will focus on expanding our products and services to global market, scaling up sustainable production and consumption actions, and investing in frontier research infrastructure. In summary, this is a checklist of 9 things we need to work on, ranging from regulatory framework, infrastructure and facilities, international collaboration, talents and entrepreneurs, frontier research, enhancing capability of industry, building new S-curve industry, improve market access, community development. BCG economy model involves all sectors in the society, including public, private, academic and research, community and international alliance. Therefore, a structure and mechanism are set in place for administration, as well as monitoring and evaluation. 3 levels of committees have been set up to oversee the BCG implementation. This consists of BCG Policy Board, which is chaired by the Prime Minister, the BCG Implementation Committee, and the BCG Subcommittee. For each specific sector, the performance will be evaluated based on output, outcome, and impact of each action plan. I would like to end my talk with an open invitation for collaboration to ASEAN community. Thailand has a lot to offer to build a successful partnership for sustainability. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Narong, for your remarks and for giving us a brief introduction on the bio-circular and green economy model that become one of the Thailand's national agenda. He shared with us how BCG will promote conservation and restoration of biodiversity while supporting the competitiveness of the country using STI to increase value of bioresources, commodities, and waste. He even showed us how BCG would help us to bounce back better by creating resilient society and economy. So as many countries in ASEAN also has planned focusing on the sustainable growth, including Philippines. Let's hear from our next speaker, Ms. Celia B. Ilamba. She is currently a director of the Philippines Textile Research Institute, or DOST PTRI, Department of Science and Technology, DOST, Philippines. Ms. Celia Ilamba spearheads textile industry research, development, and collaboration, integrating supply and value chain through science, technology, and innovation. And she has decades of extensive experience in the apparels and textile industry. And today, she will share her experiences related to sustainable development with us through her presentation on circular economy perspective towards a new textile economy. Please welcome Ms. Celia.
Hello, thank you very much, Dr. Lilian, and thank you very much, Dr. Narong. To our distinguished guests in this panel, I am very privileged and very grateful to be a part of this activity. I have the privilege of speaking to you this morning on behalf of the Philippines Department of Science and Technology. My presentation will first share initiatives of some of the units of the department, after which I will speak of textile economy initiatives which were developed to address primarily the needs of the micro and small to medium enterprises. So first of all, allow me to laud and to commend. That was a very fantastic presentation that you had started with, Dr. Narong. Allow me to share with you what we consider as low-hanging fruits. This is now layering from the ground up, and hopefully we can find many other opportunities to scale up. So to begin with, it is of course led by our Secretary, Fortunato T. de la Peña. It is made up of a number of our very good undersecretaries and assistant secretaries. There are 6 S&T service institutes, sectoral planning councils, there are 3 of them, 7 research and development institutes where I belong, and 2 collegial and scientific bodies, and 16 regional offices, which in turn are made up of 80 provincial S&T centers. The R&D institute I represent is the Philippine Tech, everything to do with textiles for all applications from wearables to home to industrial, technical, and medical health.
Excuse me,
Yes?
Dr. Celia, may I interrupt a little bit?
Yes.
Could you share on the full screen, please? Because currently it's
it's not.
it's not full screen. It's a presenter views. Yes, thank you. Okay.
I apologize. Do you see the
So, okay.
full
Yes,
screen?
I think that's full screen now.
Yes, but I lost my presenter view. Okay, so let me just swing this therefore. So allow me just invite you to visit us in our website.
Oh. Can you? Okay. Can you hear me
Right.
still? Okay.
Details below.
Please
So first,
continue.
allow me to
Yes.
share with you. I can hear, but maybe we should just, let me just get this out again. I apologize, guys. We tried this earlier and it worked. Let me go back to exit first.
Okay. So we are okay. I think Dr. Celia tried to. Okay, I think we got the full screen with us now. Yes.
Of the Institute. This is really an international collaboration with the EU and ASEAN dialogue on green tech is the short term of the project. And it is really meant to take a look at 3 different proposals of projects. I cannot seem to see my notes though. I apologize again. So Dr. Lillian, when I do this, do you see my presenter
Yes, now we can see your presentation. Okay,
view?
but this is now become the presenter's view.
You as
But
well?
if you are okay,
It's very,
if
no,
you are
it's better
okay
to
with
just have the
that,
full screen up.
คือเขาไม่เห็นเขาต้องการดูพรีเซนเตอร์วีด้วยนะแต่มันแชร์ไม่ได้แบบนั้นเขาต้องทำตรงไหนอะ
I is that okay.
เดี๋ยวให้ไป
We will just show you. I apologize, guys.
Dr.
We did it
Celia,
earlier, so I guess we will.
Dr.
we'll just have
Celia, it's okay.
to show
Maybe
the
would it be
interview.
okay? Would it be okay that I put the next speaker up for now, and you can talk with our technical team on this to solve this problem? Sorry about that. Maybe would it be okay for that? Dr. Celia, can you hear
Was
me? Yes.
Yes.
Could I bring Mr. Lim to be the next speaker for now, and then you can talk to our technical team to set up the slide. Thank you. So sorry about the technical problem, and let us move on quickly to Mr. Lim Thuong Liang. He will be our next speaker for today. So let me introduce Mr. Lim to all of you. So Mr. Lim, he is currently a Chief Science and Technology Officer, or CSTO, of Singapore's Ministry of Sustainability and the Environment, MSE, where he oversees the planning and coordination of research and technology development across the ministry to deliver sustainable and cost-effective solutions in water, waste, food, and coastal protection. He also supports innovation and enterprise development in these areas, facilitating linkage between research and industry to catalyze Singapore's green economy. And his topic today is circular economy for a sustainable future. Mr. Lim Thuong Liang, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Lily. Very, very good morning to all our very prestigious members in this forum. I'm Mr. Lim Thuong Liang, and as introduced, I was the CSTO for the Ministry of Sustainability and Environment. In fact, the ministry was really recently renamed to emphasize on Singapore's focus on the sustainability and the protection of our environment. So today, yes, can you see?
Yes, Mr. Lim, can you have your camera on, please?
Oh, apologize, is that?
Yes, okay, you share your screen, okay, but please have your camera on as well.
Okay, my camera is on. Let me turn it off and try again. Are you able to see my camera?
Oh yes, we can see your slide now, but
How about my camera view?
But we don't see your. So okay, maybe your computer have it turned off automatically. Are you sharing your slide from the iPad?
Yes.
Okay, so maybe this is not possible to share your face as well. So please go on with your presentation.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm fine. Yeah, the presentation is more important than my face for at least the next 10 minutes.
Yes, we can see your face during the panel anyway. Thank you.
That's great. All right. Maybe let us move on. To develop a country for Singapore that really houses more than 5.5 million people in a land area that is slightly just more than 700 square kilometers. Singapore had no choice but to think very, very carefully about sustainable ways to manage our resources and grow our economy. Hence, the theme of this session about the biocircular green economy resonates very, very strongly with us. You can almost say that Singapore was forced to adopt sustainable practices even before the term became widely used. This year, we redoubled our efforts in sustainability by launching the Singapore Green Plan, which is a national sustainability movement that involves stakeholders from all walks of life, from businesses to academia to community. And it aims to position us to achieve zero net emissions as soon as possible. The plan strengthens our commitment to global sustainable development as well as climate action efforts. And that, of course, includes the UN 2030 SDGs as well as the Paris Agreement. The key programs of the Green Plan are organized according to 5 pillars, which you see on in some ways, the top half of the screen, with the green government and green citizens as very important enablers. Under these pillars are ambitious and concrete targets that Singapore is striving towards. The first pillar, City in Nature, is about infusing greenery into our living environment. One of the objectives or outcomes is to be able to plant 1 more million trees. Right now, Singapore has about 7 million trees on our island. We hope to increase it to 8 million. The second pillar, which is sustainable living, is about saving resources and saving energy a way of life in Singapore. The third pillar is the energy reset, which is essentially about growing our energy supply and greening it. What is important is that while we are currently using natural gas, the cleanest form of fossil fuel, we are exploring new avenues, increasing our solar deployment, at the same time looking at the use of hydrogen in our economy. That would mean not just about deployment locally, but also potentially looking at importing some of the green energies into Singapore through hydrogen. The fourth pillar is about the green economy, which will anchor new investments that will improve carbon and energy efficiencies in our industries as an important part of our green conversation. And last but not least is the resilient future, which seeks to develop new coastal adaptation systems to address the rising sea level change, as well as food security measures that have been so recently emphasized through the pandemic, as well as our understanding from Singapore's challenges, because currently we import almost 95% of our food, and we hope to be able to improve that, to be able to produce more of our food locally in Singapore. I'll touch and zoom in a little bit on the sustainable living pillar, which is the most relevant to the circular economy concept today, as it is about a smart use and a reuse of resources. We target to reduce the amount of waste sent to our landfill by 20% by 2026, by 30% by 2030. I'll go into a little bit more detail in the next slide. We also want to be able to reduce carbon emissions by improving and increasing the amount of trips that are made through public transport. Because from the living perspective, we see that public transport is probably one of the most greenest and sustainable ways of powering the connectivity of our country. Last, just as the effects of climate change are intergenerational, our efforts need to be intergenerational as well. And hence, we aim to nurture the next generation of youth to be environmentally conscious through stewardship programs. So let me talk a little bit more about waste circularity. And a bit of background in the Singapore context is that we made 2 key decisions in our waste strategy in the past. The first is to incinerate our waste to reduce the volume of the waste that will go into our landfills. And that is very important in a land-scarce Singapore. Second was to develop an offshore landfill called Pulau Semakau. You can see that the island at the bottom of the screen. We do that so that our land on the island can be fully utilized while we send our waste to the landfill offshore. As part of our circular economy efforts, we developed the Zero Waste Master Plan in 2019 to further address our challenge in waste management. The plan will strive to reduce the incineration ash and non-incinerable waste going to the island by 30%. We do this by supporting efforts by companies and homes to recycle their waste, as well as finding new ways of turning our waste into new resources. I'm sure that you're all too familiar with the circular economy concept, where opportunities are sought throughout the product's entire value chain in the areas of sustainable production, sustainable consumption, and sustainable waste and resource management. All that is well and good. However, in the Singapore context, we are not a large-scale manufacturing powerhouse with all elements of these value chains residing within Singapore. In fact, 70% of our economy is actually formed by the service industry and not the manufacturing industry. Hence, to develop a circular economy, we have to seek opportunities not only in local circularity, but also global circularity in areas that make sense to us. Let me just explain with some examples. We see some companies at the bottom of the screen. To be able to grow our recycling industry in Singapore, we looked at areas such as metal recycling. Here, Remax extracts about 90% of all the ferrous metals and 75% of non-ferrous metals from all our incinerators. In other words, all our waste gets burnt, but in the process, Remax is able to extract all the metals so that they can actually be repurposed and reused. TES, or TES, is an e-waste recycling plant that is currently recycling up to 14 tons of smartphone batteries per day in Singapore. That's a lot of phones. In fact, I worked out to be about 18 phones per year per Singaporean. Obviously, Singaporeans alone are not supplying and recycling all these smartphone batteries, but it actually says a lot about the global supply chain and the local value chain in which we are able to then work with companies such as TAS to allow them to bring in much of the feedstock, if you like, in terms of the recycling to meet their purpose. And of course, we are anticipating that with the increase in electric vehicles, that TES will also in due time be able to help us in recycling some of the EV batteries as we go into an EV era over the next 2 decades. And last but not least is Neste, which is currently it's a large global bio refinery, and by 2023, they will be able to recycle cooking oil and animal fat in Singapore to produce up to about 1.5 million tons of sustainable aviation fuel to supply to the airlines. Next, I'd like to talk about reducing or addressing the waste, not just through recycling, but also in areas where recycling is not possible, and we still need to look at converting some of our waste residue, especially those from the incineration plants. We're looking at actually revalorizing the incineration bottom ash, which forms about 40% of the waste in Singapore, or the waste residue in Singapore, for use in non-structural construction in a product called new sand. Some uses of those include concrete furniture, road base and sub base or footpaths, as you see in the pictures on the slide. The idea is that the incineration bottom ash can now become not a waste to be put in a landfill, but actually become a resource that, that will be useful for various industries, and at the same time allow us to extend the lifespan of our offshore landfill, as I earlier said, because space, even if it's offshore, is also limited. Similarly, for single-use or contaminated plastics, we are researching ways in which we can use pyrolysis to turn that back into oil, or what we call new oil. This new oil will be further treated before being used as a feedstock in the petrochemical processes. The benefits are similar to new sand, is that it's another resource that can be reused. At the same time, it prevents us or avoids or helps us to avoid actually putting our plastics into the incineration stream, which then actually generates more carbon emissions. So this is a way in which we are actually able to first reduce our waste and at the same time reduce the overall emissions of our incineration process. Next, this slide covers our more ambitious goal. Earlier, I spoke about how we have been dealing with waste in various modalities. This is our attempt to look at merging and increasing circularity between not just the solid waste, but also the water treatment or the liquid treatment in Singapore. And we are in the midst of building the world's first integrated waste and water treatment facility. Its co-location allows us to reap synergies in terms of water, energy, waste, and even land. In this slide, you'll see that the sludge from the reclamation plant is digested with the food waste to create more than 3 times the biogas if it was not integrated together.
ได้ขอบคุณค่ะได้
Biogas from the water reclamation plant will be rechanneled to the waste management facility so that the temperatures can increase from 440 degrees Celsius to 480 degrees Celsius. And this increases the thermal efficiencies and maximize the electricity production. And of course, the electricity produced at the waste treatment plant will be reused at its own site and as well as the water facility. Next, I'll just lightly touch on the additional future or innovation efforts to support our circular economy. Here we see that there are some R&D programs that we have embarked on in various areas. The first is the Closing the Waste Loop, which is an initiative that studies how value and resources from waste streams such as plastics, food, e-waste, and incineration can be further extracted. The Waste to Energy program aims to seek higher levels of energy efficiency for our waste to energy plants. And lastly, in the food story, we aim to be able to support the goals of food security with capturing economic value as well as food safety. I'll touch on a few of these examples. Here you see a waste to energy effort in which the facility that we have developed treats waste at temperatures higher than the typical mass burn incinerators, reducing the amount of waste produced. It is actually the first of its kind in the world to be able to employ a biomass charcoal as an auxiliary fuel. And a key selling point for this as a research facility is its plug-and-play features, which allows researchers and companies to use the facility to test different kinds of component technologies as part of a larger waste-to-energy system. The next is our research into the food story, where we see that in order to be able to produce up to 30% of our nutritional needs by 2030, we will have to undertake much R&D to be able to achieve that. Simply because there are a lot of challenges faced, but also a lot of opportunities in terms of food, water, energy, and waste. Some of these are highlighted in the slide, but I would not go into detail. You can actually pick that up in that. I think that I will conclude by saying that in terms of because the circular economy concept spans across multiple stakeholders and even international borders, we recognize that Singapore cannot do this alone. This slide simply shows some of the challenges on the left-hand side when we want to be able to achieve circularity in our economy. But at the same time, it shows the opportunities that are available from a technology perspective, as well as I think the opportunities from a collaboration perspective. We hope to be able to participate more in the BCG ASEAN network that was earlier mentioned, in new conversations such as today, to be able to share ideas, form meaningful links, and to be able to identify complementary initiatives that we can potentially collaborate on in the near future. With that, I thank you very much for your time, and thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Lim, for your presentation. And from Mr. Lim's presentation, Singapore seems to have a very clear plan for sustainable growth for quite some time, and maybe before other countries in ASEAN. And this is also in line with BCG. And the 4 pillars in the Singapore Green Plan 2030 surely cover all aspects important for sustainable growth and resilience future. So Thailand and other nations in ASEAN could learn a lot from Singapore, and we look forward to the panel discussion later with him. So thank you very much again. Let's move back to Dr. Celia. So sorry for earlier that we have to pause for your presentation, and now welcome back. So please feel free to continue your presentation, Dr. Celia.
Not at all, Dr. Lillian. Thank you very much for allowing this. I appreciate really the support and the help that you provided. So I hope that the screen is up already.
Yes.
Oh, I still cannot see the presenter view.
It is
all
up.
right, I apologize. I'm going to come up again with the presenter view. So our tech team, if you may, please get settled, get ready for it. So I just wanted to start again, back up with the slide where I stopped earlier. The department has actually been working with the EU on an ASEAN dialogue on green tech, and essentially it is made up of 3 different projects. The first project is launched by through the Committee on COSTI, the Committee on Science, Technology and Innovation, and the European Union, and it aims to contribute to sustainable green growth in 3 ways. The first is through dialogue among technology innovators. The second is through the transfer of state-of-the-art sustainable technologies between the EU tech providers and the ASEAN multiplicators. And the third is a complementary contribution to capacity building. Of the 3 pilot projects or 3 sectors under this green tech project, the Philippines is hosting the project on plastic waste. This is management, and it aims to share, whether by way of participation or duplication, the result of the tech transfer and related activities to others in the region. The second pilot sector is on sustainable manufacturing. This is being implemented between the EU and Vietnam, while the third is on COVID-19 cooperation, which seeks to involve all of ASEAN to initiate research, cooperation, tech transfers, and capacity building for pandemic control. A sister research and development institute at the DOSE, this is the Industrial Technology Development Institute, or ITDI, has several responses focused on bioplastics, waste management, and waste-to-energy technologies for small to medium enterprises. The renewable resource-based biodegradable thermoplastics, among others, which include studies on Chitosan and pineapple waste, provides an eco-efficient solution to the persistent problem of non-degradable plastic waste by using readily available and renewable resources, using traditional plastic processing equipment, and applying nanotech to the TPS for biodegradable cutleries and films, for example, which perform similar to petroleum-based plastics without the toxic components. ITDI has also developed technologies to address both solid waste and wastewater. The bioreactor, for one, is an accelerated thermophilic in-vessel composting system for biodegradation of municipal solid wastes designed to hasten the composting process. The dual drum composter, on the other hand, is a small-scale motorized composter developed for the conversion of bio-waste into compost or soil conditioners. With a number of waste-to-energy projects, excuse me, the biogas digester is an airtight, oxygen-free vessel for microbial digestion to produce biogas. The plastic pyrolyzer provides thermal decomposition of organic matter without combustion. The system produces oil as a fuel substitute, and the ash byproduct can be used as filler material for other products like ceramics, for example, or in charcoal briquettes that are manually done by a briquetting machine. Finally, the compact wastewater treatment system is designed to help small and medium enterprises comply with government regulatory effluent standards for Class C receiving bodies of water. It is a low-cost, compact wastewater treatment system that can be used by standalone quick-service restaurants, for example. So towards a new textile economy, we work on materials, processes, and products that become transportable as we advocate microsystems in lieu of or in the absence of large-scale industry. Of the 17 SDGs that the UN developed in 2015, textiles, considered as the second most polluting industry, focuses on Goal 12 or SDG 12. This calls for responsible consumption and production with the aim to encourage by 2030 conscious consumption patterns, production processes, reduction and management of waste in support of reduced ecological footprint and economic growth. Having said this, we know that the SDGs are not exclusive and tend to directly or indirectly impact other goals. And while we have many compelling reasons to support the SDGs, one recent impact to us, for example, are the immediate effects of the pandemic to the environment. So consider 129 billion face masks required each month worldwide for single-use, disposable, non-degradable masks. What do we do with them after we use them? Where do we bring them? What other hazards do they provide? So from the life cycle approach in cradle to grave with the linear production system of taking that resource, making or manufacturing that into a product, using it, and then disposing of this at the end of life, we are very hopeful for these initiatives under the BCG of the biocircular green economy to move to one of a circularity and a cradle-to-cradle perspective. Borrowing from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, we advocate the three principles which call for the regeneration of the natural systems, for keeping products and materials in use, products are made to last, and for designing out waste and pollution. In particular, we adhere to the use of the natural and biodegradable without disregard or without eschewing the man-made materials, provided we adopt the cradle-to-cradle concept of treating materials as a resource, as had already been mentioned earlier, or an input in which as a byproduct may either be a technological input, which can go back to the process for reuse, or as a biological input which goes back into the soil as a nutrient. In advocating natural textiles and dyes, and in addition to conservation of traditions, culture, and inclusivity, we test this against the three cornerstones of the C2C framework: people, planet, and profit, or the three E's of equity, ecology, and economy. In the circularity framework, with naturals at the cornerstone of people and planet, we provide an alternative to the prevalence of ocean plastics and microfibers or plastics finding themselves in the water system by the mere act of clothes washing. For example, NTFs are a significant trade product where the Philippines has a revealed comparative advantage given the abundance of these materials in our country and the domestic and international market demands. We apply the same considerations in weighing the natural dyes, its neutral, if not positive or climate positive impact to the environment, the improved economic proposition for the underserved sector, and the positive health implications to those who process the product. PTRI bears in mind a framework we term closing the loop on fashion. Here take the textile supply chain from raw material source to conversion to fiber to yarn to fabric to a finished product until it reaches the consumer through retail distribution channels up to the post-consumer stage, where we hope to break this apart and transform the used product, break this apart and bring it to become a new fiber, a new yarn, a fabric, finished product in a circular fashion. Tela Pilipinas is the starting point, with the goal of closing the supply chain gap of yarn spinning at the micro level through the establishment of regional yarn production and innovation centers, or RIPICs, a region-based facility. The RIPIC pulls the upstream and downstream together by identifying raw materials that are natural, if not indigenous, if not endemic to the Philippines, and providing the means to transform this for the maximum benefit at the local level. Perfect Fit offers an integrated product development system which bridges the analog with the digital, making use of the IR 4.0 ready technologies with a focus on the textile to apparel product development, and TexReb or Rewear, which will focus on material recovery for new products. On the circularity principles, regeneration of the natural systems, we promote this concept of Tela Pilipinas, with textiles as an acronym for Textiles Empowering Lives Anew. It is the expression of the embodiment of an inclusive strategy. The focus on this natural textile fibers, it aims to capitalize on textile raw materials that are already abundant or available in the locations where they are. For cultivation to the dye sources, you have your weaving villages, your centers, facilities, retail outlets, museums. It also integrates your tourism highway, as well as your cultural maps, which was, I had heard earlier from Dr. Narung, is also one of the pillars for the BCG. In addition, Tela Pilipinas seeks to close the gaps as well as the loop with an end-to-end value chain, starting with the raw materials and the process in between up to the finished product on what is termed as soil to skin. In this work, the goal is to increase local value in the very location where the material abounds as much as possible. This graph shows the change in value from the raw material to the spun yarn, for example, in a soil to near skin. We show you here by the value transformation slide for bamboo in the main frame, and the graphs for abaca, banana, and pineapple leaf, the three NTFs that we are focusing on. They similarly follow the checkmark trajectory, as we will note on the right side of the screen. From the promotion of the local ecosystem, we promote the use of natural textile fibers. With over 500,000 hectares planted to abaca, banana, pineapple leaf, the raw material is plentiful. While we have yet to conduct full LCAs or life cycle analysis, we already know that for every gram of cotton that we replace with an NTF, we reduce water consumption by 1 to 1.5%. For the 80% cotton, 20% abaca, and the 70% cotton and 30% pineapple leaf, for example, we reduce water consumption by 30 to 45% already. So recently, trials using another spinning system, the semi-worsted system, we find we can even increase this NTF content by up to 70%. This is now undergoing performance testing and evaluation. Or just some examples of products that are making use of these natural textile fabric materials. Cotton with pineapple leaf and bamboo. So still part of the subject for generating natural systems. In the particular case of bamboo, a textile raw material, for one, bamboo is great for the environment and climate change mitigation, sequestering 4 times more carbon dioxide compared to average forest trees. For another, it grows in many parts of the country. The PTR has developed yarns and fabric using a chemomechanical system that is environmentally friendly as against the open viscose system. In the pretreatment of natural textile raw materials, we have optimized the process so that we can reuse or maximize the use of the liquor or the dye extract. In the latter, we have reused the liquor up to 3 times, and in the dyes, reduced colorant source and wastewater by up to 75%. Consistent with keeping products in use for longer, under the Smart Textile Program, we conducted a quick response PPE project to mitigate COVID-19 by orchestrating the production of 600,000 rewearable, washable, reusable face masks. Because rewear is reusable up to 50 times, this was equivalent to 30 million single-use face masks. From rewear, we hope to emulate the cycling up of used clothes to new clothes in a project to close the loop on fashion. End cuts, scrap materials, and dead stock are used by a number of handloom weaving communities in many parts of the country. Other stakeholders, from micro enterprises to small and medium-scale retail manufacturers, have scraps or have woven into these scraps the fabric in other regions for conversion into mainstream fashion. This becomes the preamble to the rewear TexRev idea, where the proposed unusable textiles, fabric scraps, and secondhand garments are processed and carded to recover the fibrous material, which are then spun to create new yarns for upcycled products. To design out waste, we made a conscious effort to keep intimate yarns to be either wholly synthetic or wholly natural, so that even if we mix them and one forms the weft and the other forms the warp, they may be separated and cycled up. And in the promotion of the Tela Pilipinas ecosystem, we look to reduction of carbon footprint by keeping as many parts of the production process local. This is my second to the last slide. The Textile Product Development Center was established to facilitate the product development and iteration, which saves times and materials and process. The center aims to promote the integrated product development system where we can design out or reduce waste. In essence, through digital technology, starting with 3D body scan, we convert data to measurement points, construct the pattern, visualize the style, transpose into a pattern pattern, and send this out to digital plotting and cutting for prototyping. We hope to contribute to the goals of the bio, circular, and green or BCG economy. Closing the loop means to promote the regeneration of the natural systems, making products that last and to keep products and materials in use for as long as possible, and designing out waste and pollution in the process. We still have 10 years to the SDG goals. Together, we hope to make them count. Thank you very much for listening in, and have a good day.
Thank you, Dr. Celia, for your presentation. So we have learned how Philippines is successfully using STI to achieve circular economy. And Dr. Celia also introduced some example in converting biological natural resources and waste like microplastic to valuable textile and fashion in a circular manner, and also, of course, in line with our theme today of BCG. I also particularly impressed with the concept from soil to skin with the Tila Filipinas that she introduced earlier. So congratulations to Philippines, and thank you again, Dr. Celia.
Thank you, Dr. Lin.
So our next speaker is Professor Oki Kana Rajasa. He is now a Deputy Chairman for Earth Science Indonesian Institute of Science, LIPI. And Professor Oki was a Director of Research and Community Service, Ministry of Research and Technology, Jakarta, from 2015 to 2020. In addition, Professor Oki is also currently a Director of Project Management Office of World Bank funded Coral Reef Rehabilitation and Management Project Coral Triangle Initiative, or CORMAP CTI. So he is going to share with us today a sustainable utilization of natural resources to advance countries' competitiveness. So please welcome Professor Oki.
Thank you, Dr. Lily. Could you see my presentation?
Yes, it's coming.
Thank you again. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to speak briefly on the sustainable utilization of natural resources to advance country competitiveness. Many people has already realized that Indonesia is within the biodiversity hotspot. It is also global center for marine abundance and diversity, known as the Coral Triangle. And also it hosts a house for the 14% of the world coral reef, 20-30% of the world's mangrove, and we have also quite huge seagrass ecosystem. When we look at the Indonesian species diversity, especially for the terrestrial biota, for fauna, we have algae, almost 18 species. We have invertebrate and vertebrate. We have flora, and we have also spore plant and spermatophyta, as well as microbes. As you can see here also, we have a very rich of mammal diversity, birds, amphibians, reptile, freshwater, fungi, gymnospermae, and angiospermae. In terms of marine biota, we have a lot of echinodermata. There are 557 species, polychaeta, crustacea, coral, about 450 species, representing 70% of the world coral species, and fishes as well, and mammal. So it represents a huge opportunity for Indonesia to make use of the biodiversity. And with the establishment of National Research and Innovation Agency, or BRIN, started early this year, all research activities will be controlled under BRIN. And one of the new programs released by BRIN we call it Indonesia Global Platform from Biodiversity to Bioeconomy. We have realized that we are now more in the position of the owner of the genetics resources, but less in terms of as the benefiter of our biodiversity. With that, we want to make a bigger opportunity for partners from ASEAN country as well as international partners to participate in Indonesia Global Platform from Biodiversity to Bioeconomy. To support the platform, especially in our institute, LIPI, we have developed a strategic research infrastructure between 2020 to 2024 in 9 different provinces in Indonesia from west to eastern part, with the value ranging from 100 billion rupiah up to 300 billion rupiah. Many of these facilities are very much related to biodiversity, not only in terms of studying the diversity, but also to develop further the product of biodiversity. And we have declared that LIPI is a hub for multi-party collaboration. That means all these facilities are also open for our partner from ASEAN as well as from international level. And one thing, with the establishment of BRIN, now we have created what we call National Oceanographic Research Fleet, that now under BRIN, we have managed 4 different research vessels that can be used and jointly used to conduct expedition in Indonesian water from the shallow waters up to deep sea water. And I would like also to inform that we also develop a research center on deep sea extreme environment that will open further collaboration in terms of deep sea research. This is a foreign research country of origin who have been collaborating with Indonesia for the 8th best country in terms of the number of researchers. None come from ASEAN country. Mostly come from United States and then Japan, France, and etc. That means that it is time for us to work hand by hand to collaborate in order to produce a good result from our biodiversity to become bioeconomy. And this is an example of Indonesian marine biodiversity as the source of marine natural product. Many potential activities have been identified and have a very promising medical and industrial prospect. And of course, as you may understand that the Marine Center Diversity Indonesia is in the center part of Indonesia and the eastern part, as you can see here in the figure that's showing our potential. Indonesian megadiversity means microbial megadiversity, but as you may know that only 1% of the marine microbial diversity has been successfully isolated and studied. The remaining 90% are still there. For there, we need to develop new technology for exploring this richness. And as I mentioned before, we have access for deep sea research. We have the research vessel, we have the technology. So it is time for us, Indonesian and ASEAN scientists, to work together to explore deep sea Indonesia using metagenomic and synthetic biology approaches. With the metagenomic approaches, we will be able to collect sequence of functional metagenomic, and with the synthetic biology approach, we can develop biopart, part of the functional biology that can be standardized, and it is interchangeable biopart, so that we can make genetic circuits or metabolic pathway by creating bioparts, and in the end we expect to have high value compound. So by combining combinatorial assembly, as I mentioned, that once we got the biopart, in principle we can use DBTL cycle. That's when we can design and then build and then test, and finally we learn. And this will follow by combinatorial assembly that will allow us to make a circuit that will produce different metabolic pathway. For example, for glucose by pathway A, it will provide product A, then with pathway B, we will be able to produce product B. That's all for me, and thank you so much for your kind attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Oki, for introducing how Indonesia manage your biodiversity. And we are also excited with your new organization, BRIN, National Research and Innovation Agency, and research infrastructure, especially the National Oceanic Research Fleet. So we hope that Thailand could collaborate with Indonesia on this topic as well. Thank you again. Yes, thank you. So I will talk to you later. Thank you.
Sure.
So our next speaker is Dr. Magnus Bengtsson from E-Ready Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform. Dr. Magnus is an international sustainability expert advising governments and organizations on policies related to consumption and production and circular economy. And in 2019, he was one of the lead authors of an EU-supported regional study on plastics and circular economy in ASEAN. He is currently assisting the establishment of an ASEAN platform for circular economy, while also facilitating EU-Indonesia collaboration on circular economy and supporting the government of Laos PDR on policies to address single-use plastics. So he seemed to be very expert in the circular economy. And today he will share his talk on circular economy and opportunity for global collaboration. Please welcome Dr. Magnus.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lilly, for your kind introduction. It's never easy to be the final speaker, I see that we are running late also, but I will try to underline a few things that have been touched upon and introduced to you, an activity that I'm currently involved in with support from the European Union. Okay, I guess you can see my screen now. My screen come up now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, before I got to my presentation, first of all, I was really impressed and inspired by all the presentations we heard here. And I think the messages we got here it underlines one of my key messages, that there is a lot of activity happening now in ASEAN around circular economy. There is a lot of knowledge and know-how being developed, and rapidly increasing capacity and experiences to tap into. And the region could benefit greatly from sharing these activities more widely and having a more effective networking and sharing across the 10 ASEAN member state countries. I think that's one of the most important messages of my entire presentation, and the previous presentations. I think they really showed the potential for this. But let me start by showing a slide here that draws on the work that I'm doing on plastics, just to illustrate the nature of the transition that we have in front of us. That if we look at the current system for plastics, it's highly linear. We recycle very little of it. It's based on a finite resource to the greatest extent, and it's associated with a number of serious issues: pollution, climate change, and so on and so forth. And it's widely acknowledged that we need to change to something different. And if we try to look at what a future circular and more sustainable use of polymers could look like, it might look something like this, with more bio-based or renewable feedstock rather than the fossil-based feedstock that we're using currently, driven by renewable resources, phasing out hazardous substances, climate neutrality, drastic changes in design of products and business models to enable reuse and to make recycling feasible and easy, and high quality recycling so that materials can go back and actually replace virgin resources. The kind of recycling we see currently tends to be very much a kind of downcycling with very little usefulness. And also biological treatment methods being part of the picture. And of course, this is a very radical very radical change from the current system we have. And this is not going to happen overnight. This is something that will take decades. And we don't really have all the solutions ready, but we need to start making changes right now. So the process we have in front of us here, we will be facing lots of complexity, lots of trade-offs, and there is a huge need for innovating, coming up with new ideas, testing new ideas, experiments. Innovation, when I say innovation, I don't mean only in the technical sense, but also innovations in terms of policies, in terms of how we build our cities, on how we meet human needs, more broadly speaking. And we have to live with that some solutions are far from perfect. They are maybe temporary solutions that can be further improved down the line. So we are in for, I think it's quite clear that the coming decades will be turbulent. Some of the companies that are currently big and powerful will disappear. They will not fit into this transformation. Others will be able to reinvent themselves. and we will see lots of new players popping up and be part of the new circular economy that is starting to take off. So my main point here is maybe the importance of innovation and experiments, that this is something where maybe currently don't have all the knowledge. We need lots of new knowledge. We need lots of testing. And the efforts we have seen so far, also in OECD member countries, are really little baby steps towards a circular economy. All countries or all national economies are currently highly linear, and no one really has all the solutions or the kind of the blueprint of how to shift from the current unsustainable linear system to the sustainable, more sustainable systems. I will then say a bit about the findings of the gap analysis study that Dr. Lilly mentioned in her introduction of me. This was work that was done by a team of researchers back in 2019, where we looked at the situation in all of the ASEAN member states with regards to plastic from a circular economy perspective. We looked at government policies and other activities happening in these countries. And we worked closely with the ASEAN Secretariat's Environment Division. And we visited most of the countries and had quite close interaction with environment-related government officials in developing the publication. And lots of findings, lots of conclusions, but some of them relate to regional collaboration, which I think is really important to work international on this, because as many people have said here before in the session, this is something that individual countries cannot really handle by themselves. We need countries working together. And for the ASEAN as a regional group, we identified 5 initiatives, technical standards to help the adoption of more circular practices. What I say here, of course, is related with the study we did, which was on plastic, but it could be applied to other sectors as well, building and construction, garments, other areas that where technical standards can help speed up the transition to more circular products and practices. Guidelines on good practices, documenting some of the experiences made. As I talked about before, we see lots of activities, lots of experiences, but they are not always very well documented. They are not always easy to access and learn from. One particular area that we identified here as a bit of a blind angle is the awareness around hazardous substances or harmful additives, which are commonly used in plastic materials. There is a lot of concern over this in other countries, other regions, but we see that still in the ASEAN, this is at a very early stage. So we saw a need here in the study for a regional push to raise awareness around the importance of these substances that need to be dealt with. And of great importance to the audience of today's meeting, we identified a need for better region-wide networking for research and innovation, to have a greater pool of expertise across the region that is easily accessible, and building not only research network, but also the innovation systems, to have entrepreneurs, large enterprises, academia, and the finance community working together, not only at the national scale, but also across the region. And finally, we identified a need for ASEAN to have a plan for its work on circular economy for plastics. And many of you will be aware that ASEAN recently adopted a regional action plan on combating marine litter, which has many elements of circular economy included in it. This, as I said before, is particularly about plastics, but we need to think more broadly about how circular economy can be accelerated also in other sectors. Let me finish my presentation here by talking about a follow-up initiative that I'm myself also involved in right now, and that is supported by the EU. It's about establishing an ASEAN circular economy stakeholder platform to help raise awareness and build understanding around what a circular economy approach actually means, to show people the benefits of this, the need to for this kind of transformative change I talked about before from the current linear systems. It's not just a matter of incremental changes here and there, but that we actually need to think about large-scale systemic changes. Facilitating and sharing good practices, promoting dialogues, especially on how government policies can be catalytic to accelerate the shift. And this initiative to set up this platform is initially supported by the EU, but the initiative is expected to be taken over and run by the ASEAN itself. We are still trying to work out the details of that, but we are hoping that the ASEAN member states will see the value in this initiative and be prepared to run it based on its own resources. We have reached an agreement with the ASEAN Center for Sustainable Development Studies and Dialogue, which is a relatively new ASEAN body established in 2019 and based in Bangkok. And I will say more about the key activities on a later slide, so I will shift to the next one. The initiative that we are working on here, it gets its inspiration from an existing circular economy platform in Europe, which was established in 2017 and which has exceeded the initial expectations. It has actually had quite a lot of success in connecting the dots and making people talk more actively around circular economy, and it has initiated a number of new projects, and it has contributed to shaping the circular economy action plan of the EU. And the circular economy stakeholder platform here in the EU, it has a searchable database of good practices with a great number of good initiatives. It lists national plans. It provides easy access to a great number of knowledge products. You can easily see upcoming events related to circular economy, and there is much more here. So what we are trying to do here is to get inspiration from what exists here for the EU and to build up something similar for the ASEAN. So the platform, as we envisage it, would have a secretariat to be hosted by the ASEAN Center I talked about before, supported by a multi-stakeholder engagement group, where we see people from academia, research organizations, people from private sector and civil society sitting together. Not an enormous group, maybe something like 20, 25 people, to advise the platform and to act as ambassadors for the platform. And the activities of the platform would mainly be to host this knowledge and information portal, similar to what we saw on the previous slide for Europe, and also to organize an annual conference around circular economy in ASEAN to discuss policies and good practices, obstacles, and way forward. So with that, I think I have used up my time, and I hope that this was interesting. And if you want to access the report we developed here in the study I talked about, you can do that here. And if you want to know more about the Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform, please reach out to my colleague, Mr. Jörg Meyer, based in Jakarta, and you have his contact details here. Thank you so much for your attention, and I look forward to the discussion.
So thank you very much, Dr. Magnus. It is certainly very informative to learn about the 5 regional initiatives for ASEAN, and it is also certainly useful to transform our ASEAN from linear to the circular economy. And I also think that the ASEAN BCG initiative and network could work together very well with the ASEAN Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform and also the ASTIW-II. So now we have already covered all the speakers for today, and we would like to move to the panel discussion. So today we have 4 panelists, which are our speakers with us today, and I will ask questions for each of you. And the first question will go to all speakers, which is Dr. Celia, Mr. Lim, Professor Oki, and Dr. Magnus. So the first question will be, what are the challenges for your country while supporting the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals with STI? Could you give some example of those challenges and solutions? So I will start by Dr. Celia first and go to Mr. Lim, Dr. Oki, and Dr. Magnus. So please, Dr. Celia.
Thank you, Dr. Lily. First of all, I wanted to thank Dr. Magnus for the presentation. I think many of the things that you indicated are definitely, on the money. There are definitely some things that have to be considered. In our country, no one is ever short on intentions. Everybody understands the need for this and the criticality of this. There's a barrage of information and ideas, in fact, that we have. But I think it is important that we connect, we link up the systems, because what happens is there are activities that are happening and they're spotty, they're not really connected. The intentions are all very good, and so I laud really the initiative that Thailand has in this BCG, have pretty much shown the way of this highway or this network of linking it up, and I think that's part of our consideration. So the capacity and capability building is very important, as each country has different levels of engagement or different levels of maturity in terms of the BCG ideas. And I am very grateful for the experience that you have shared today, particularly the BCG platform that you are putting together. So I would say it would be linking up, promoting the capacity and capability across the board, and scaling on a national platform, a national scale, as you have done in your case.
Great, thank you so much. And how about you, Mr. Lim?
Yes, I think that our thoughts, particularly from Singapore, is that while we do a lot of things and work within Singapore, there's obviously a need to be able to reach out to partners to be able to scale many of the impact. That's probably one of the big challenges. Recognizing also that some of the solutions that may be applicable in Singapore, given that it's a very dense, highly urbanized living environment, may need to have to be adapted and changed and modified in order to be able to create that impact beyond our borders. And I think those are very, very important considerations. And one of the I suppose, solutions that we're looking at is that we've set up within Singapore with a group that actually looks at expanding the connections to the region and the world, is the Global Innovation Alliance, and we've have different innovation partners and offices in different parts of ASEAN and the rest of the world. In fact, we have offices in Thailand, Philippines, Vietnam as well, and even in Indonesia, to be able to then tap on the local or the country innovation networks, so that then two countries are able to connect. So but I think that what has been raised in this discussion, having a broader pan-ASEAN network where innovation and ideas can flourish, not just at the, let's say, company level, but even at the policy level in terms of discussion, would go a long way to help us, I think, strengthen some of these connections that we need to be able to effect many of the circular economy initiatives in a proper way. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. I totally agree with you, Mr. Lim. So how about you, Professor Oki? Do you have any recommendation on the challenges of your country and the solution?
So we have created a national committee for reducing marine debris. by 70% in 2025. So it's now become a very huge initiative from national into local level. And also we have some competition of new technology that can be implemented to reduce the marine debris, for example. On the other hand, we try to protect our marine waters, especially the small island. For example, Pari Island in just an hour from Jakarta in the North Jakarta Sea, we have nicely developed an area that serves not only as a conservation area, but we try to develop economic activities to help the local people that will maintain the quality of the ecosystem, but we introducing them with, for example, canoe kayaking, canoeing through the mangrove ecosystem. Or, for example, we offer the tourists to experience how to plant mangrove or seagrass or transplant coral. Pay for that. That's something that, in my opinion, not only will give impact to the environment, but it will give economic impact to the people. And also in terms of marine debris, there are many activities, even with the Netherlands. We try to develop biocircular economy or managing litter from the river in Malang into Surabaya. The partner with the partner of Netherlands, they develop what is the best practice in separating, in collecting the debris that can be further processed to become source of economy for the people. So I believe this kind of activities should be interdisciplinary to allow people with different perspectives will be engaged more to solve problem that we are facing at the moment. Thank you.
Exactly. I think that goes well with the BCG concept, where we have to conserve our biodiversity while we have to also create the economic value for the community as well. And I think we can learn a lot from you as well, Professor Oki. And how about you, Dr. Magnus? I know that you're not really original from ASEAN, but you live in ASEAN for a long time. Would you like to maybe share with us your thought on that, or you want to share with us on your country's thought as well? I don't know, you can do both.
Thank you, Lily. Just to correct, I'm not actually living in ASEAN, I live in Japan, but I have worked with the ASEAN region for many years. One challenge that I come across from time to time is a very conventional way of thinking about development and what it means to improve a society for the future. There is still the dominant mindset that it's about becoming like the high-income countries and to get waste incinerators and more cars in the streets and to buy all our food in supermarkets. But we all know that that model is unsustainable. It's highly unsustainable. But still, it's something that keeps popping up, this very narrow way of thinking about the future, that it has to follow this conventional track, which is a road to nowhere, frankly speaking, to be a little bit blunt. And I would hope that the ASEAN countries, which have significant capacity, which are innovative, could be braver in formulating alternative visions. What could the next stage look like? If we think beyond what the high-income countries have accomplished, if we try to pick out good bits and pieces of the kind of the technologies and the know-how and the knowledge that they currently have, and if we try to piece together something better, something that is future-proof, that is more resilient, that can allow for self-reliance, as Dr. Narong talked about in his speech here before. That is one of the challenges that I sometimes come across.
Of course, and I think I totally agree with you that, to build a resilience futures and society would be a very, very difficult, but we all have to go in that direction. So I think that's the first round of our questions, and I think I will do another round for all of you to share your wisdom with us and with the audiences as well. I want to choose the questions on the international collaboration because I think it's the main key to accomplish the global challenges. So could you propose or suggest mechanism for the collaboration among ASEAN's members in order to promote the BCG, Biocircular Green Economy, or the SDG? So may I start with, maybe go back to Dr. Celia again. Your mic, could you have your mic on, please?
Thank you very much. I think it's important to continue discussions, and perhaps with the ASEAN organization, there could be continuing workshops, for example, because there has to be a common ground. We all have to have the same definition, for example, of terms, so that our thinking will be more aligned or more standard across ASEAN. So applications will also be uniform across ASEAN, and we do not miscommunicate. So I think it will be good to establish a framework of that commonality, what that common idea is, so that each of us can go back to our places and then craft our own our own roadmaps, for example. And that roadmap will be contributory to an ASEAN roadmap for the regional roadmap. But I think it has to begin with a shared idea of what exactly do we mean by this? How do we define it? What are, as an example, I mean, Dr. Magnus talked about the phasing out of harmful additives. That's a very good place to start. First of all, what are those harmful additives? Do we all agree that those harmful additives are harmful, and what do we do? How do we then plot out that or map it out or do that, that transition from one step to the next step? So I think it would be important to get together to thrash out those details, because I think we all agree on the idea of sustainability towards the future of our planet and our people. But how to get there is really the question. And I think we have to start small, chewable bits, but defined bits. And so this roundtable conversation will be very good to put together, to arrive at something definitive, step by step.
I think that's a great idea. I think it comes from someone who knows ASEAN, how the ASEAN works very well. We should start from small, and we have a lot of concept already in each country. So it's time to, start working together and implementing how we should operate this to reach the sustainable development goals. So thank you very much, Dr. Celia, for that great answer. So could I go to Mr. Lim for your opinion, please?
Thanks, Dr. Lily. I think that actually I echo what Ms. Lee had mentioned about the need to be able to come together more often. And I think that increasingly the fact that we're having this session today virtually actually improves the ability for us to be able to bring multiple stakeholders together for conversations. So I fully encourage that we continue to do this, have organize more focused forums, webinars for knowledge sharing, and to also build the community. And I think that another useful device or mechanism, if you like, is to actually undertake some levels of collaborative projects. This is, I think, what has been mentioned by Professor Oki earlier, and he looked at the projects in terms of marine debris. And the reason is that these projects, when undertaken together, actually bring, whether it's researchers, policymakers, maybe even companies, together to be able to really understand some of the issues and challenges, and then build a deeper sense of collaboration and trust. And in doing so, not just for the project, but it actually provides a very strong signal within ASEAN that a collaborative approach would give a very, very positive outcomes. I use an example where in 2018, Singapore team together with Indonesian team from LIPI worked together and actually were on an expedition to chart out and understand the deep sea marine life in the area of the southern coast of West Java. I think that I've met the researchers, even and one of the Singapore leads was Professor Peter Ng. And he and his students and the participants today still speak fondly of that experience and how the level of collaboration has been heightened because of the kind of actual physical expedition that they went through together. So I would fully encourage that we should look at more ways we can collaborate and share experiences and knowledge. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Lim. I totally agree with you that you suggest on having researcher doing some joint research project together, and it will just not just building up the result, the good result for scientific paper, but also build up the very strong relationship between in the research community. And I think we already have some example by collaborating with Professor Oki as well in the past that with some of the projects. So we're still friends until today. So maybe we want to hear from you, Professor Oki, on your thought.
Thank you, Dr. Lim. As I explained in my slide about the numbers of researchers working together with Indonesia, none come from ASEAN country in terms of number. So I think it is time for us, one, because we are the owner of biodiversity. We have the common problem, we have the common potential that can be further developed by having collaboration. Of course, we are happy to have collaboration with Japanese, with Chinese, with Americans, but why not with our neighbors? That's a funny thing, I think. So that's one point that I highlight from my presentation. And secondly, with the establishment of National Research and Innovation Agency, that's like NASDA, all research facilities will be under one roof, including research equipment and also research vessel will be under one management unit. It will make easier for us to coordinate. That is why what I presented also offering new research activity, for example, in deep sea research. Of course, we can combine deep sea debris. That's mentioned by Magnus, that we are also concerned and we have ongoing project that also see how deep the marine debris actually went down into the bottom of the sea. So if we agree for doing that, I think it is really a good and promising beginning for our collaboration. And I'm ready for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Oki, for offering us to, and share the infrastructure from Indonesia with all of us. And I think I'll be the first one to sign up to join your project. And maybe when the COVID-19 become less bearable, we will, surely visit you. And we also welcome all of you to visit us as well. And maybe we could have the first forum on the BCG here in Bangkok. So how about you, Professor Dr. Magnus? Would you like to share your thought on the international collaboration?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Lily. I think the ideas we heard here from the previous panelists, I think they're all excellent ideas, and I strongly agree with all that was said. I think we need to get also the start with getting the basics in place. It must be easier to find information about what is currently going on. There is a lot happening, but if you don't have the right contacts, if you don't know who to talk to, it can be quite tricky to get access and to start collaborating or learning. And looking at scientific collaboration, which I guess is especially important for this audience, the audience of today's meeting, I'm looking at the European Horizon 2020 programs, for example, which are broad consortia that are established around specific themes. Usually these projects run for a period of 4 years, and you need to have participation from several European countries. This may be not something to be replicated directly as it is, but it could be a source of inspiration for the ASEAN to develop more of these kind of regional joint research programs that address some strategic issues. And that could be linked to what Dr. Celia said about starting with some focus areas that are widely recognized here as tricky ones for the ASEAN regions to address and work for those on those areas jointly. I think it also would be good for the academic community to have a bit more mobility, to have more exchange schemes, maybe starting already with more exchange for people who study at the master level, but especially for people doing a PhD or people who are at the postdoc stage, to have opportunities to go and work in one of the other ASEAN member countries, I think would be a great experience and help build relationships that could last throughout their careers and make collaboration much easier down the road.
I think that is great, and with the Horizon Europe is will be one of the platform where we could use this to share between European and ASEAN region. I think that is a great idea to stay connected and see if we can work together in the very near future. So I think that will be the end of this panel discussion for today. I know that I kind of asked the speaker for speaking quite a long time, and so I once again thank you very much, all distinguished speakers, for sharing your knowledge with us today. But before we end this session, we would like to inform you that ASEAN Network, initiated by Thailand with Indonesia and Philippines, was endorsed by ASEAN Committee on Science, Technology and Innovation COSTI yesterday, and it will be proposed to be adopted on June 17 in the informal ASEAN Ministerial Meeting on Science, Technology and Innovation, or IAMMSTI. With this opportunity, we would like to invite interested agencies, both research institute, industry and policymakers who relevant and interested in BCG, biocircular and green economy, or any sustainable development model to join and drive the sustainable goal in our ASEAN together. So if you are interested, please kindly send us an email to aseanbcg@nasda.or.th. Again, aseanbcg@nstda.or.th. So finally, Thank you again, all the speakers. And finally, I hope you found this morning session informative and insightful. We appreciate your participation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.